Okay, so the grand finals just concluded, and I gotta say, this was one of the most intense and stressful things I've ever done in my life. I've been playing this game for 7 years and played hundreds of matches, been to 20 grand finals, and no single match can compare to this. The match itself required near perfect gameplay, and even then I should have lost. The run that led to it had so many legends of the game and unlikely victories that I could have faltered in any one of those matches and it would have been perfectly reasonable. I'd even go as far as to say that this finals victory had one of the toughest, if not the toughest roads to do it in the history of Pixel Party and Block Party. In fact, of the 10 predictions submitted, 3 had Kai winning, 4 had Dopa winning, and 2 had me finishing second. Nobody thought I could win it. I personally thought Kai would win, with Dopa finishing second. I figured I would take the time to talk about the tournament, my many thoughts, how I qualified, the strategies I used, all that fun stuff. And it all began on August 2024 when I placed 4th in the top 3 Hyper tournament. And because one person ahead of me already qualified, I was able to sneak in as the 3rd unique player in the tournament to lock a spot for Hyper Champs. I already qualified twice for both normal and Hyper Champs, and the year overall was actually a pretty big success, with me winning 3 major tournaments and placing second in another. But normal champs, well, it definitely could have gone better. I mean, to be fair, I don't think anyone can blame me for not making top 8 with a group like this. I mean, what even is this? Ku, Kevin, and GVAP? Be glad I finished 3rd. And to be blunt, Hyper Champs wasn't that much better. I ended up with Raywad, my number 3 all-time player, F-Will, my number 1 all-time player, and Addison, extremely notorious for his RNG and power-up tendencies, who also, by the way, finished 3rd in normal champs. With a group like that, I figured 3rd was the best I was going to get. I started off by trying to establish a rhythm going against Bacon, which went pretty well. I don't think he was giving it his 100%, so I got a relatively convincing 2-0 victory against him, leading to a match with F-Will, who won 2-0 against Raywad. I figured F-Will was going to be my biggest roadblock because, well, I mean, no shit, Sherlock. And I was also pretty nervous for this match, and it definitely showed a bit. I made some uncharacteristic mistakes, which is kind of ironic because I won 2-0. One of them was because of the glass barriers blocking middle during a TNT rain round, which gave me my first dub, and I followed it up with a double feather clutch victory to sweep him. My next opponent was Raywad, and if you thought I was nervous against F-Will, you ain't seen nothing yet. All I could think of was that if I won 2-0, I'd automatically secure a playoff spot, no matter how poorly I played against Addison. Raywad by far put up the most fight, showing superb confidence and skill. And in the chaos, I panicked and got crushed by an anvil, going down 0-1. After that, I got a victory on a rolling map where Raywad got distracted by a power-up and lost track of where he was. The second win I had came from Grid 2.0 TNT rain. We both quickly ran to the spot, but there was a TNT blocking where we were going. I adjusted my way around it. Raywad did not, and that was the game. At this point, I had 5 unique ways I could make the playoffs. 2 from F-Will, 2 from Addison, none of which were that difficult to achieve, by the way, and 1 by me. The way I could lock a spot is if I scored 1 point against Addison, even if it's a loss. And as I predicted, 2 out of my 5 playoff methods were removed despite how easy it was by the time I played Addison. Raywad also dropped out of the tournament, putting Addison at 2 wins with 2 matches left. And now the pressure was even more extreme for me. I just had to score once to lock my spot, and I immediately throw my first chance away. To be fair, it was like 5 a.m. for me, and I wasn't exactly physically all there. But this right here is unironically the make it or break it moment. If I lose 1 more point before I can score, I end the tournament in 3rd place in my group. But I did. Addison failed on a relatively easy speed 12 map with jump boost, giving me a point and securing a playoff spot. After that, I completely collapsed, having accomplished my objective, sealing my first loss in Hyper Champs, but also granting me access to the Hyper Champs top 8. Even better, I got the winner's bracket advantage since F-Will defeated Addison 2-0, taking the 2nd seed in my group and kicking Addison out. By even making it this far, I had defied my expectations with a guaranteed minimal 6th place finish, and possibly much more. But to do it, I had to face my greatest rival, Dopa. As an opponent, it didn't get much worse. Not only have I never won a match against him in the 5 tries I've had, but I also never once scored against him either. But this time, surely this time was different. I just won 3 major tournaments and placed extremely well in a 4th late in the year. Dopa just lost 2-1 to Owen, who did not even make the top 8 of Hyperchamps. And of all ways, it was from an anvil. If he can make mistakes like that, surely I at least have a shot. I lost 2-0 in 3 games. Alright, boys, back it up. We're done here. Everything about that match could not have gone worse for me. The mojo that day was just so cursed that my stream even gave up on me. It just stopped working before I even lost my first point. The more things change, the more they stay the same. And at this point, I was down in the dumps, man. I lost all confidence in myself and fully expected my next match to be my last. It's okay, Zach. Top 6 is still massively respectable, it just wasn't your year. We'll go back into the works and see if we can improve some things and then challenge them again next year. The opponent who I was certain would put me in my grave made themselves known. A familiar face. F-Will, the same person I had beat 2-0 in the group stage. Only this time, I have no momentum or confidence. The day of the match came, and once again I made some uncharacteristic mistakes, only this time it costed me points. It came when I threw an egg on the floor and couldn't find red even though it was literally all around me. The way I use eggs now has changed where I just throw it on the floor the moment the color is selected. Time it right and you can always have enough time for the egg to land on the floor beneath you and change the colors. I even tried it a few times in the grand finals, and it worked every time, without a hitch. Following that, I had a win on rolling lines where it picked a color behind me, and my opponent wasn't aware of it, whereas I was, awarding me my first point. The second point I got came from a very rare event called body blocking. I had a feather, which I used to perfection, but F-Will had a pearl, which he did aim correctly, but he didn't account for one thing. I was in the way. With that final victory, I survived 2-1 and score a date with RU Hacking, who fell 2-1 against Kai in the losers brackets semifinals. Going into this match, I was pretty nervous as he has generally had a really good showing so far. Undefeated in the group stage, almost beat Kai, and he also placed top 2 in normal champs, so I didn't think my chances of victory were that great. And it started off with me making a really stupid mistake. I focused too hard on grabbing power-ups, got lost after the matter, and fell to my death. Down 0-1, things were looking dire, and if there was ever a moment where elimination should have happened, it would be right here on 0.5 square. I ended up using my only item, the Acid Rain, and good thing too, because if I didn't, say it with me. Not even close. I'm joking. It was so close. Oh my god. If it picked yellow, I would have been eliminated. Bruh. But we lived through it. Unfortunately, the heart attacks aren't over yet, as we have a rolling grid 0.5 map, which basically means I am required to have a safety net, which I do actually. Little do I know that moments earlier, Hacking threw an egg into the air, which I did not see. This led to me getting scared, jumping away from safety, and now having to recompose myself and land this pearl or face elimination. Unfortunately, we have yet another jump scare on the way. Rolling Factory is actually really tough depending on what the game picks. There are a lot of tight jumps, especially on rolling. Now, what Hacking was thinking, since it is 0.5, I can make the jump. But if he throws an egg on me, maybe not. And so we barely survive again. And now it's time to finally score some points. First one came on rolling lines. I'm pretty dug in. I barely find the pink and get on it without a safety net. Hacking, on the other hand, isn't as dug in. But it's alright, because he has an ender pearl. Because of course he does. And now that makes 2 matches in a row where my opponent misses an ender pearl throw, awarding me my first point. Let's try to make it 2. Just gotta land this feather clutch. Just gotta land this feather clutch. I said land the there we go. The issue I ran into the feather clutches was that since it was round 25 on the first 2 tries, I have to land the feather successfully or it'll just end in a tie. Whereas if it's round 24, I can just time it right and survive flat out. And because I was being too passive with the feathers, opting to just aim straight up instead of at an angle, I ended up falling short of my target. So from now on, I agreed to start aiming slightly forward. Better to overshoot your target a bit and bring your momentum back than to aim straight up and not have enough momentum to reach your goal. Obviously, if your target is right next to you, aiming straight up is fine. If it's a ways off, you got to account for that. And mind you, this is a split-second decision. And with that, we barely survive against RU hacking and advance to the losers bracket finals against a familiar face, my greatest enemy, Dopa. Coming off a 2-0 loss to Kai, he was probably ready for blood. He was looking to crush me, annihilate me. This match would be so difficult that I could play it again 100 times and lose in all 100. I mean, like, Alright then. That's 3 times now, by the way, that in Hyper Champ's final stage, my opponent misses a Pearl throw to save their lives. For my first victory, I think Dopa either didn't realize I had a color trail, was too distracted by the anvils, didn't expect the 2 blocks he was standing on to both change to the only other 2 colors the map had, which meant he had a 66% chance of surviving just by standing still. Or he knew I had it and didn't think I'd try anything, and just focused on the anvils. My second win actually goes into a common question I ask myself. If I have no safety nets, but my opponent does, or at least I think they do I follow them in case it's an egg? In Dopa's case, he said yes. You can clearly see him following me, but I don't have an egg. I have a pearl. I'll go more in depth later on this, but no matter what he was thinking, the point went to me. And so, the stage was set for the grand finals. Me versus Kai. And boy, was there an interesting story behind that. We've already faced off several times, almost all of which I had the upper hand. Well, except for one, I guess. Kai, up to this point, has won every single Hyper Champs match he has played in, whereas I have lost 2 and fought viciously and desperately through each match I played to stay alive and get here. And I was given the task of defeating him twice if I wanted to win the Hyper Champ Grand Finals. I decided to do what a wise man once called investigative journalism, only on myself, not other people. I decided to look back at all of my Hyper Champs victories and all of my Hyper Champs defeats, see how it happened, and if there were any steps I could take to fix it. There were several different ways to measure how I won or lost all the games I played in. Death order, power-up advantage, and skill were the ones I focused on. In the group stage, I had 7 wins to 3 losses, and in the final stage, I had 6 wins to 4 losses. In the group stage, 6 of my wins were to skill, and 1 was a power-up advantage. Of my 3 losses, 2 were skill, and 1 was a power-up advantage. Addison, of course. In the final brackets, 4 of my wins were skill, and 2 were power-up advantage. And all of my losses, all 4 of them, were skill-based. Almost all of the losses were because I either used my eggs incorrectly or was too aggressive with collecting power-ups. And so, the game plan was set. If I could keep my skill-based deaths to an extreme minimum, use my eggs and feathers properly, and be more cautious with power-up collecting, then I would at least correct most of the mistakes I made and have a shot at being at least competitive in the grand finals. And so it begins. And game 1 of the grand finals could not have gone any worse if I tried. A lot of the power-ups went to Kai, and the ones that I got did not give me any safety nets. In fact, just to show you how rough I had it in the finals, I reviewed the 2+ hour VODs of both me and Kai, and found that he collected more power-ups than me, had a higher safety net percentage, had fewer rounds without safety nets, had only 1 loss when he didn't have a safety net, and I lost 3 times as many points from my no safety net games. Overall, I would even go as far as to say that he had 4 times the amount of luck that I did. Friendly reminder that I won this tournament, by the way. Hard to tell from that stat line. And as we can see, late in the game, we get 0.5 second lines with no safety net. I tried to follow Kai in case he had an egg, but of course, he has a feather, which he uses, and I lose round 1. An unfortunate loss, and I really couldn't do anything about it either. Nevertheless, we gotta move on, and luckily, I get to win this time. This one is gonna be from Kai's perspective. So as you can see, he has an embarrassment of riches. Not to be unfair to him though, I also have 2 safety nets, which I didn't even end up using because I got lucky. Now, what Kai has to do in this situation is figure out where the color is and adjust his trajectory so that the feather will launch him the right way and at the right angle to not under or overshoot it. And he has to do all of this in pretty much less than half a second if he wants a chance. So I don't exactly blame him for not being able to do that. But hear me out, because he also has an egg, and the way that I use an egg is that I just throw it at my feet the moment the game picks a color. Even if it's only half a second, the game gives you enough time to perform this action. If he does this, he survives, and keeps me from scoring. But he didn't. And so he didn't. So now it's 1-1. Tie game, but all Kai has to do is win 2 more. And unfortunately, I am not going to do myself any favors here because I don't have a safety net. Lines 1.0 comes up. I grab a power up out of desperation because I have no other options. Of course, I get villagers, and from there, I have no chance. Kai does throw an egg, but at that point, it's just too quick for me to notice, and I fall to my death. So now it's 2-1. All Kai has to do is score 1 more point, and he wins the grand finals. And as you can see, yet again, he has a safety net on standby. The moment comes up, and to be honest, I'm kind of surprised how little gray is in his area. Or at least that's how I remember it. He did his best to get his feather out quickly, but he fat fingers it and uses the wrong item, falling to his death and making it 2-2. So now we are once again tied. The next point will either end the tournament or send it to a bracket reset. Now is probably a good time that I remind all of you one of the key things I told myself to try and work on for my grand finals match, and that is collecting power-ups. It's important to understand the ones you can go for and the ones that worst case scenario could end your life. It's also important to remember that if you collect or use a power-up, there is a 2-second cooldown before you are allowed to use or collect another. And well, okay. Bracket reset time, boys. I can't believe it. Owen can't believe it. And Kai can't believe it. I had done what no other human being on the planet could do and took a game off of the king. And now we're going to a reset. And to be honest, at this point, I'm feeling pretty good. 0 skill-based mistakes. Kai has been making a few. If I can just keep it going and hang on for dear life, I can win the grand finals. But it doesn't look good. Yep. And so, Kai lands his Ender Pearl, securing a victory and going on to gloriously win the Hyper Championship Grand Finals. Say it with me. Not even close. And so I get my first ever Death Order point in all of the Hyper Champ tournament. Hey look, it's Lions again without a safety net. No! Oh, so much RNG! I'm telling you, man, Lions and I are water and oil. No chemistry. Anyhow, it looks like we're on an Anvil game pretty early in the round, so I'm not sure why okay. Easy dub. Quick tangent here, but I'm going to be honest with you. You are playing with so much fire by not looking into the sky. You are practically begging to get crushed by an anvil by doing this. I mean, man, I'm not mad or anything, but look at how nonchalantly Kai is playing right now. He's not even trying. Who does this guy think he is? Dopa? Could you imagine how easy it would be for him to win the grand finals if he took rounds like this just a little bit more seriously. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm glad he did. After all, it's why I won. And I wouldn't be mad if he looked into the sky to see how much danger he was in, but no, he doesn't even glance into the sky for even a moment. Like, dude, what did you expect to happen? So many players just think they are immune to the odds, which, don't get me wrong, so far, Kai has indeed been immune to the odds. He has been so unbelievably lucky to this point. But to see him lose like that, with the night I've had, it was a raw moment. Not to be completely unfair to Kai, I also soon after got my first skill-based loss. No! So anyways, here it is, 2-2. Next point wins the entire tournament. The stress is at its absolute maximum. And to make things even more stressful, the last 2 matches we played, I had no safety nets in either one. The game was drawing to a close, and all I could think of is please no RNG, please no RNG, please no RNG, please no RNG. Oh no. Yup, it's over. Please. Huh. Well, about damn time. And with that, the tournament was over, with me defeating unbeaten Kai twice in the grand finals. Also, I want to give Kai a quick shout out. He is an insanely good player who made it to the grand finals for a reason. It just wasn't his night, and they shouldn't take away all the great things he did and will continue to do for Pixel Party, and he should be poised to make another finals run in 2025. It was extremely close, and either one of us really could have won it. Ultimately, it came down to a multitude of things, and RNG was undoubtedly a pretty big factor why it was as close as it was, but make no mistake, this tournament was won through mistakes, and Kai had 5. I played damn near a perfect finals and easily should have lost, which goes to show you just how crazy hyper mode can be. As unfortunate and biased as it may be, I do believe the correct player won the grand finals. If Kai lands this Pearl, the grand finals is his. I had 4 straight matches where my opponent missed their Ender Pearl throw. As RNG based this tournament can be, it ultimately came down to simple mistakes like those. Being too aggressive with power-ups, missing pearls, aiming feathers, choosing an egg over a feather, not paying attention to anvils, and Acid Rain picking black over yellow. And we can go back even further than that since I almost didn't make the final stage at all, not taking proper precautions around TNT, hugging the middle of the map, putting yourself at a massive risk of TNT rain ruining your spot, failing to survive an easy map with a jump potion. I may have won the grand finals, but frankly, I made it really, really, really hard on myself in the process. And if I want any hope of repeating this success in 2025, I have to get better, or else I'll just become another Dopa. See, that's a joke. Because who wouldn't want to be dope? You know what? It doesn't matter. Quick, do the out.